All right, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Had a little bit of a camera fallout right there. We'll worry about that later. But want to welcome everybody to episode 124 of Roundabout Sports, presented by Interstate 70 Sports Media, where our passion is our profession. Thank you so much for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the Maestro, Jeremy Carp. It is Wednesday, March 11th. I'm sorry, March 12th, Wednesday, March 12th, 2025. And I'm stoked. Before I introduce our guest this evening, there's a few little tidbits, little things I usually like to get out of the way. Little go down the checklist here. If you're just tuning in to Roundabout Sports for the first time, you can find Roundabout Sports on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Pocket Casts, and anywhere else you may be streaming your shows. Also, be sure to follow Interstate 70 Sports Media on Facebook, on X, and on our official YouTube channel. We got a plethora of great shows, including the Blues Fan Forum podcast, Issues with Wrestling, and the Other Guys Sports podcast. And of course, as always, if you want to advertise with us. Oh, Eddie's tuning in. That's another thing. It's always about fan interaction. Now, this may sound weird when it's on the Spotify and all the other audio platforms, but we have live comments that always come in. Eddie's a longtime listener of the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Now, it is about time that I introduce this week's guest, and I am very grateful to have him on. This gentleman is a longtime St. Louis broadcast and video camera operator. He has worked with every major network in the St. Louis area and has experience with Odyssey and Hubbard Broadcasting as well. He has told me he is a huge soccer. I almost want to say soccer is like a second religion for him, especially European soccer. So I'm really excited because we're going to be talking about European soccer. We don't do that a whole lot on the show. So to be able to branch out and do that, something I'm especially excited for. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, welcome my friend, the one and only Michael Arthur.
Hi there, Jeremy. Thank you for having me.
Michael, it's a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much.
Happy to be here. Thank you for reaching out and bringing me into Interstate 70.
Of course, it's an absolute pleasure. So, figure what we're going to do is the first half of the show we're going to dedicate to you, your career, your humble beginnings, if you will, kind of where you're at now. So we're going to have our break, and then our second half, we're going to talk about a lot of the latest happenings. I know one thing we're definitely going to delve into is the latest regarding Major League Soccer and Apple TV and their contract. And it's been under fire recently. A lot of league executives want that contract axed. And it's just year 3 of a 10-year deal. So that's something we're going to be talking about. But first, about you. So you are a videographer, a camera operator. You've worked with multiple St. Louis sports teams and with multiple networks in St. Louis. And I got to ask you, where did this passion come from?
I'd have to say it's early on. In my family, we watched a lot of sports, and that was a good bonding time. My grandpa, both my grandpas were incredibly into sports, and that was kind of something that we could do together. With them being older and just see how passionate they are. And I got that passion from them. And probably one of the first times that somebody had said something about, my creativity when it came to sports would have been, we went to the Basketball Hall of Fame up on the East Coast. And they had a thing for, you could read a sports cast, from ESPN about NBA. And, all the kids went up there and tried it. And I got an ovation, and my grandpa seemed like he'd never been prouder and said, "You might have a future in this." Instead of being in front of the camera, though, I'm behind it now.
I was going to say, now, let's put it this way. Were you ever the camera shy person when it came to being in front of a camera?
Oh, no. I actually have probably 4 or 5 years of on-camera experience through my different avenues before I found where I'm at now.
Okay.
As a kid, I was kind of a natural performer. I didn't do theater or anything like that, but I was I did the announcements in high school, and communication was a big thing, and their debate where did vocal performances and things like that. So I was never shy to have the focus on me.
I mean, shoot, I can't blame you with that. So one thing I wanted to also ask you is, you've done work. Well, first off, you went to school at SIUE, is that correct?
Yeah, I went there a couple times actually. Like
Really?
you said, I had a kind of a weird circumnavigation to get back to kind of where I am today. But yeah, I went to SIUE in my younger years for international business and marketing. Transferred to Lewis and Clark, got an associate's degree, then went to UMSL and kind of ran out of money. So ended up getting into radio broadcasting and went to Lewis and Clark, which has one of the best radio broadcasting programs in the Midwest for only being a 2-year university. So I went there for 2 years. And then when COVID happened, I actually ended up breaking my shoulder. I was ready to give up everything creative and go work at the post office. And then when I broke my shoulder playing rugby, shout out to the Mercenaries out of Alton and Godfrey. When that happened, they said, no, we won't take you. So I had to rethink things and ended up going back to school and getting 2 degrees in business and in mass communication, and fell in love with the film side.
And now you also do a lot of, in addition to doing work for sports teams and networks, you've also done a lot of freelance work. Kind of take me through some of the non-sporting events that you have or might have participated in or taken part in on this journey.
So I did a internship with Cool Fire Studios back in, let's say, 2022, 2021. And that was my first kind of taste of freelancing. They couldn't technically hire me, but they liked what they saw. First time we did production, and I helped them out as an intern. And they're like, well, won't count towards your hours, but we can have you come in, a few times a week and help us with our other commercials we're working on. So that was really neat. So thank you to the Cool Fire family. They kind of got me on that journey too. And have since worked on many commercials around St. Louis. Some of the neat ones are like Cheerios or the Folds of Honor commercial that you see between almost every commercial on the Cardinal broadcast. That was a neat one, probably 100 extras, and just millions of dollars went into that. The amount of people and equipment. It was amazing. So there's all sorts of commercial work that I've done. I haven't done too much film work. I did get offered the On Fire to come in, but it just didn't work out with the other stuff. So there's people I work with that say that we're freelancers, but we're actually salesmen, and we're selling the empty spaces in our calendar. So I like to think of it that way and just try to keep working.
So you look at yourself as more of like a broadcasting traveling salesman.
Yeah, kind of, you can equate it to that. But I just like, I guess I try to be humble and
which isn't a bad thing. I don't want it to make it sound like I was gonna say I don't want to make it sound like it's a bad thing, because it's really not. And especially, and Cool Fire Studios is, no slouch. They're right downtown St. Louis, right off Lucas. They got over 8,000 followers on Facebook. And if anybody wants more info, you can call them at 314-300-6502. That's 314-300-6502. And I promise you folks, neither Michael nor Cool Fire Studios paid me to do that little plug for them. So that is all free on air, just for me, by me. But no, I think it's really cool that you have done so many different avenues that all tie into kind of the same field.
Mm-hmm.
And now with Lewis and Clark, a lot of people, as time has gone on, they find more value in going to trade schools and learning kind of more hands-on as opposed to sitting behind just a desk at a university, with the pen and the paper. So, I mean, what is your thoughts on the idea of trade schools and the role they play in career advancement?
So like Lewis and Clark specifically being a 2-year university, I think it's actually kind of how I would put it is it's more reactionary to the economy. So 4-year universities are going to see when times are booming and there's more money available and people feel that's more comfortable, they'll go to a 4-year university. The second that like COVID or something like that happens or the stock market crashes, then the 2-year university seems like more of the plausible option. And you kind of see that happen and it goes back and forth often. Personally, I don't know if I've obviously done quite a bit of school and don't know how much practical things I've actually learned. It seems like, gen eds to me was just learning the same things over in high school. But I'm a hands-on person myself. And so I want to explore and dig into things and figure out why things work. And I mean, I'm decent at memorizing, obviously, but I think when you actually do something, it sticks with you more. And to have those practical skills, especially in this industry, they'll set you apart.
Okay. And, I like that too. I really think that, and I agree with the point of it being more reactionary to how the market is and how the economy is, because obviously when an economy is booming, big time universities will milk it for all it's worth.
Yeah.
Whereas community colleges and trade schools and career centers, they kind of have to kind of play more by ear with everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they kind of play to the safe, stable, more like this is one option for you if you're not looking to spend a lot of money.
So obviously you are in video operating and camera operating. When it comes to being a professional videographer, are there any misconceptions that you think people have about it?
So I was thinking about this a couple of weeks ago. When I was a kid, so I extremely ADD and have been since I was young, which can be a superpower and a curse at the same time. But I remember, and I wish I had a photographic memory so I could tell exactly who it was. But I remember watching a Cardinals game back when it was still on, the basic channels, and they were shouting out, "Yeah, R.I.P." They were, giving a shout out to a camera operator who had been with them for so many years, and it was his birthday. And I was thinking, God, how awful would that be to just sit out there for just 8-9 hours in the sun, or and that's just was my thinking. And then actually doing it, it's like to me, it's like playing a video game. And I'm sure if you have AD, you know what that's like. You just get locked in and you're just having fun. And so I guess that was what would have been one of my early misconceptions, was my attention span. But I mean, the amount of things going on at once, it's perfect for my brain.
Well, thank God for that, because I'm not gonna lie, I have to really lock into something because my brain will scatter. Like if I really don't focus on something, I'll admit when I went back to school, I had an associate's degree. I got my degree and everything, but when I went back to get a certificate, it was around the time COVID hit. And I could not do the classes at home. Too many distractions for me to just sit on the computer, and it just it fizzled out, but when you're playing a game, or if I'm watching a game, especially when it comes to sports, I feel like it's when I'm laser focused. And I don't know if that's just kind of the way we are hardwired. It's when it comes to what we love doing or love watching.
Yeah, we get that hyper focus. Actually, what you reminded me, when I was going through school, before I graduated, they said I had to take a class that was online, and I avoid it online because I just the way it's set up, you have to watch old videos and then go do the stuff, and then it's got to be do at a weird time. And I live in a place that doesn't have internet. Well, I finally got internet, obviously, because I'm talking to you now, but I didn't have internet at the time. They didn't offer it here.
Right.
And I told my advisor that, and she said, "You'll adapt." And it was like the always saying, "I'll adapt to not having internet." So, you spent days outside the library seeping their Wi-Fi in like 30-degree weather. So that was fun. But yeah, I just some people aren't built for that kind of tedious. You got to be on it. But the if something is engaging, that's why I kind of equate it to a video game, because I know that's a lot of ADD. Like, can just laser focus in that hyper focus and just do it for hours.
Now, you still currently work with FanDuel Sports Network, correct?
That's correct.
So take me through what it was like, if you can, during the past, I'll admit, past 3 or 4 years have been hell with that network. And eventually everything with Bally, the contract expired. The Diamond Sports Group was preparing for bankruptcy. And now you go from Bally Sports Midwest to make it roll off the tongue, the FanDuel Sports Network Midwest. We go from Fox Sports Midwest to Bally Sports Midwest to the FanDuel Sports Network Midwest. Take us through, if you can, that transition from Bally to FanDuel, and if it affected your roles and just the initial reaction to the news.
So I came in, I would say about August of 2022. So Bally's was still doing okay, Diamond Sports. There was inklings that they were going to be bankrupt and there was going to be a lot of issues. And so we all just kind of, that's, I guess, one of the nice things. And Phil, our director over at Blues, has pointed it out too. Phil Malika, he's been doing it for years and years. Amazing guy. And he pointed out that it doesn't necessarily matter who has the contract for us. They're going to need us because there's got to be somebody in the building to be putting on the show. And we're part of Local 4, IBEW. And so part of St. Louis's contract being a union town, they have to use, Local 4 people. So, but that doesn't mean that we're immune to that because of money restraints. So when Bally's then were starting to be more open about their financial woes and the bankruptcy proceedings, we started losing camera positions, tape positions, which, I mean, that's, money off the table for people and less people that can work every day. Again, we're selling our calendar. So, those are, less days here and there, they add up. And so we were very unsure about how that was going to go, if we were ever going to get those positions back. Those still haven't actually came back. And then I guess just recently that, because we were hearing about other markets. So like San Diego left. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that they just kind of canceled out in the court proceedings, or they just didn't pick up their contracts again. But St. Louis is a big moneymaker. I know the team has been falling behind and it's hurting the city, and the viewership's down, but we're still, a top tier market. We might be considered a mid market, but as for sports, we're a valuable asset. And so I don't think they wanted to lose us. And, obviously I can't say for sure, but I would assume with how it worked out that they kept the Cardinals contract. FanDuel came in. I think they're still doing restructuring right now. So it's about it almost hasn't changed. It's the same crew, the same studio, the same talent. I think it's they invested money, changed the name, took over the debt, because I think it went from something like 212 billion in debt to 200 million in debt. So going from 200 billion to 200 million is, I don't know how they did it. That's an incredible amount of
that's miraculous.
catching back up financially. Yeah, I don't know how they did it either, but that just puts them really close to being in the black, which is a good sign.
So you mentioned, to your point earlier, about how, even when the contractors change, the employees, a lot of times they stay because you all are essential. They need people to operate the equipment. They still need people to video record, or people to operate the cameras, or whatever, you know. So it brings me to this question. One of the biggest things in the world right now is AI. Now, AI, with the artificial intelligence, has created a big boom when it comes to voiceover and voiceover industry. Um, my question for you is: do you think any technological advances are going to happen within the next few years that could jeopardize employment for videographers and camera operators such as yourself?
Um, Video is probably pretty safe, just for the fact that it's based off your eyes for one, and also the changing conditions that are going on, and needing to patch the truck to the cameras that are out there. That's a lot of the stuff I deal with, and a lot of the routing from the truck. So somebody has to be doing that. I mean, I guess technically, if I wouldn't even know how that would work, but and for the camera side, I don't know if you could necessarily train a camera to know that, when something's going on in the stands, like it can't look around the lens. We spend a lot of time keeping our viewfinder below us so that we can constantly scan and zoom what's going on and find that, we're storytellers ourselves. So we go out there, and there might be something that, the director can't see because he's in the truck. But, unfortunately, to that point, I was the guy that shot that big fight over at Slough, just because I happened to catch it first and they took it.
Oh,
I don't know if it was my greatest camera work. I wasn't expecting to go live, but that happened, and so, but like again, so that it's kind of an extreme example, but an example in itself. There are things going on technologically, not AI related, that are making it so that there are less jobs for the technicians. It started years ago with the going to the dual system. So there used to be a truck for home and away. So if we're in, say, LA playing the Dodgers, there would be a St. Louis truck, and then LA would have their home truck. And same thing if whoever we played would bring their own. They devised a system where they could share cameras between trucks and drop staff down considerably, and they share the same truck and the same, signals outputting, but just doing two different shows with the director on site. Now there's technology where they call it a Remy, and they send a smaller truck with gear and stuff, have us camera and some tape people and video. They'll shoot the game, and then there'll be a studio somewhere else, either like Indy or New York or Chicago, depending on the network. And they'll cut the game and do all of the graphics and everything at their end. So yeah, there's definitely obstacles where less and less of us are being used.
and I know that is something that, honestly, in the whole field of journalism, for that matter, in the whole field of sports journalism, analysis, production, has definitely kind of been on edge about over the past, honestly, just over the past year or two, because of how quickly advances are being made. I do think there always will be a place. There's always going to be a place for human necessity for production, and like board operators and video productions. But I do think I can see the job market decreasing to where, um, instead of having 5 people doing 5 different jobs, companies in general are going to try to find a way to get as few people to do 5 jobs as possible. you don't have to pay as much. You save a lot of costs.
Yeah,
You know?
it's all about the bottom line. I mean, you've seen that in radio right now, where they're just running their catalog and then having just somebody else, one DJ out of one city, just doing the interstitials between.
Yeah, and you know that 1041, they just picked up, or I guess you could say KMOX is now going to be simulcast on Hot 1041, but they just did a whole slew of radio programming just a few days ago without any DJs on air because the staff got laid off. In Kansas City, Odyssey, and this is something we'll talk about a little bit too after the break, is that Odyssey laid off and cut off stations nationwide. And there was a couple shows out in Kansas City. One of them I know was on the air for 27 years. And in the span of a day, it ended because Odyssey, they just said, hey, you guys are done.
Yeah, it's kind of sad that it's moving that way, and unfortunate for the people who put their lives and souls into an industry. And yeah, radio is one of those ones that it's surprising because it's the cheapest for to sell for marketing for airspace. So it seems like they should be able, obviously there was the cut the cord movement with a lot like TV and stuff like that, and then the XM Sirius radio. But it still seems like there should be a spot for radio since it hasn't gone away, and there are a good amount of listeners.
I agree. Folks, you are tuning into Roundabout Sports presented by Interstate 70 Sports Media. Be sure to follow Roundabout Sports on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Pocket Casts, and anywhere else you may be streaming your shows. I'm the Maestro, Jeremy Karp, alongside Michael Arthur. Michael, stick around with us. I know we got a lot more to talk about, so folks, bear with us just a little bit. We're going to go to a quick break, and we'll be right back for a lot more amazing talk. You do not want to miss it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to episode 124 of Roundabout Sports. It is wonderful. I got to make sure to edit the date, but it is March 12th, 2025. I have it on our description here, March 11th, but I think that's also because that's the date I started working on production. I do want to say, Michael, I've had a lot of fun. For those that don't know, I have Michael Arthur on. He's a broadcast operator, a videographer, a camera operator for all across St. Louis and in the Midwest. And for this is the second half of the show, folks. For learning about Michael's life, his career, where things got him to where he's at now, the first half hour of our show is where to go, because now it's time we get into the real deal when it comes to the world of sports. And Michael was the one that actually brought this up to me. I really get an interesting vibe out of this. Now, you are a huge soccer fan, correct, Michael?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we were talking about before the break about networks, broadcasting rights, things of that nature. Now, it was just 3 years ago, actually, that Major League Soccer and Apple TV worked on a 10-year deal for exclusive broadcasting rights. Yeah, it's funny, though, that here we are in year 3, and fans have a lack of access to it, and a lot of league executives are really starting to become not just worried, but downright ticked off might be the way to go. Because fans can now, here's the thing. The league introduced a Sunday night soccer match window that is available in front of the MLS season pass paywall. Keep in mind, paywall, never fun. And it's designed to highlight the league's best teams. Fans can also find games in their DirecTV and Xfinity channel lineups, but they'll still need to pay for the season pass subscription to access them. But of course, the Apple TV app is also a big way to go. Now, the reality of all this is, and I hate saying it like this, folks, especially for you big soccer fans out there, if you want to follow MLS like you would to any other sports league, you're going to have to buy season pass for $99. And you still have to open up the Apple TV app just to find the games. So, Michael, as a longtime soccer fan, you've seen the growth of Major League Soccer in the United States. Tell me the damage that this, and keep in mind, we're in just year 3 of 10. Take me through what you feel is just why this contract is a bad idea and MLS needs to seriously consider getting out of it.
See, I don't think St. Louis could get out of it. Honestly, it's a league-wide deal. So I think they spent somewhere in the $2 billion amount mark for that 10-year deal. And so they obviously Apple has a lot of plans and has a lot of investment into this. I guess if you talk about the MLS growing, I was actually, as a kid, a fan of the MLS in the late 90s. And it wasn't until I found European soccer that I was like, well, I don't want to watch this anymore. Because and I've seen like the David Beckham Netflix special where they talked about the quality of the MLS at that time. And so I don't think I was too far off to say that it was very low quality league, but it was kind of fun to watch just because it was different and it was American. So you had a little bit of, pride towards that. But at some points it got so bad that it was like, well, I'd rather watch this, a little more skill and flair and glitz and glamour. And obviously, England and the rest of Europe have been doing it longer, so it just was a better product to watch. And then, but like how I could equate this too is if you remember when NBC Sports took over the Premier League, and that was exciting. That was probably 2012, 2013. That was the first time we saw Ted Lasso. His bit is what they were using to promote it. 10 years before the show even came out. But that was something where they marketed as every game, on NBC or NBC Sports. So as long as you had just a regular cable provider, you would get to watch all of the games. And if there's ones you missed, you can watch them on demand. And it didn't take long after that they switched over to Peacock. And as a avid fan, I was kind of disappointed in that because that became a paywall to go through. And I didn't get Peacock until recently because I finally got tired of it. But it still took me 5 years before I made the switch. And I don't know how that equates for, other fans out there, if they felt the same way. Like, why would I have to do this extra to watch something that was included? So Apple's kind of the same way. But Apple, before Apple came in, you could watch it, multiple days of the week. They had the schedule set up. So even if, you just wanted to watch soccer, there'd be soccer on. And being behind a paywall and then them switching to the European style where it's, even now, if you do have Apple and you do have the MLS pass, they're all playing at the same time. So it's not like you can watch, multiple games live. Odds are if you're going to watch one game, another game, they're probably playing at the same time. I just recently finally did give in and get Apple Plus but I got the MLS pass free through T-Mobile. And that was something that they did 2 seasons ago. I didn't have T-Mobile then. Otherwise, I would have done it. But obviously, they were hoping that by the next year, everybody who had the pass through T-Mobile would be like, "Oh, I love this. This is great. I'm going to get it again. I'm going to. I want it again, but it's not free, so I'll pay the $100." And obviously, that wasn't the case because now it's free again. The whole business is ran by advertising. So as a kid, I hated to watch the commercials. I just wanted to see, the game. And obviously that's where the money comes in to put on these productions. But people have to be seeing it. It's all based off your market share. So if your attendance, or not your attendance, but the viewership is low, then your advertisements aren't worth as much because you're not getting as many eyes on it. So I think that's a big issue for the executives out there. They have a product that they're trying to grow, but less and less people are being able to see it.
And for those that are watching the audio visual one, like live of this episode, we have a graphic on the screen right now with the MLS and Apple TV, kind of one of their promotional graphics they had in the past couple years. And, when it comes to sports streaming, the latest MLS deal, it's a part of the push by streaming platforms to ramp up their sports coverage. Let's face it. I know Apple TV is trying to get more streaming rights for Major League Baseball, while the NFL Sunday Ticket went to YouTube TV. And of course, in 2021, NBC Sports extended the deal with the Premier League, the English Premier League, which, the 6-year contract is worth about over $2 billion. Yeah, $2.5 billion, from what I have noted here. Now, this is, to me, one of the biggest things. You look at ESPN, who's supposed to be the global leader in sports. Well, now they're losing a lot of exclusivity when it comes to the rights of what they're able to broadcast. And let's face it. Yes, in America, MLS is not on the tier of viewership as NFL or the NBA. But at the same time, it's the passionate fan base they have, like, in the following there is, that still provides a big viewership that obviously streaming networks and services would pay a big money to acquire.
I don't know if it necessarily has the passionate fan base, honestly.
Really? Okay.
Yes, there are passionate fans. I'm saying more of the fact that I don't think there's the numbers to equate to that. If you like say St. Louis, obviously we have a big draw. We have some of the most viewed games on the Apple platform. Every single game we play. We had 70,000 people sign up on the first day fill in, was it 17,000 out of the 22 that were available for season tickets. So, I mean, you're looking at a good number, but if you take that as a whole, you're not getting NFL, NHL, MLB. You're getting probably, if I had to guess, it would be closer to, I mean, I don't know. You'd be surprised. The women's soccer is huge and growing expansively. Those are some of the best shows to work on. I worked on one of those for CBS. They put a lot of money into that. Apple is kind of going the other way though. So they've dropped camera positions and tape positions because they are losing money. And that happened between, right after the first year, especially when Messi came in. I think they overshot their wad on doing extra outside. So they were doing, extra camera crews and cranes and sky cams and things like that for their games. And I think they went through their budget pretty quick and are backpedaling.
If Messi doesn't, here's something. If Messi doesn't come to MLS, does Apple TV go all out to get MLS exclusive rights?
The MLS exclusive rights happened way before that. So Messi didn't show up until, I want to say, whatever it was later than Apple started. It was the same season, but they bought it before. I actually was surprised because Apple, I don't think they were ready to actually take that on. So they didn't have, you go to Apple's catalog, it's still kind of small compared to like Hulu or Netflix or something like that. They were trying to find programming to put on there. So another thing I worked on with Coolfire is called City Rising, and that they were paying production companies in every city to start doing things for their MLS team so that they could have just content related to MLS to go on there. So I think they were kind of backpedaling and trying to catch up, because originally when they bought MLS, they had a very light catalog and there wasn't a lot to watch on Apple specifically. So that they are spending a lot of money, which, I mean, that's good, because you obviously understand that there's a need and you have to have something to go with it and a value there. But when it comes to what the MLS is looking for, and obviously the executives have aired grievances as to whether or not this was the right move to begin with, there needs to be, more eyes and putting that paywall and creating more obstacles. I did sales for a long time, overcoming those obstacles to get it into every house. That's the real challenge.
It's funny because in 2023, Commissioner Don Garber even admitted that broadcasting every game in the American top flight with this whole deal was always a risk. Because look, on one hand, you're removing MLS from regional sports networks, as well as only offering a slim number of games on Fox or Bally Sports, whatever you want to call it, has produced those underwhelming results. But Apple is paying MLS $250 million annually for 10 years. That's a record-breaking deal. But last October, it was when Garber was discussing this whole thing with the league. And, he goes, if this works, this is a quote directly from Don Garber, the commissioner of MLS. He says, there's a lot of ifs in this, and that's where you start to get worried. If this works, we share in the revenue. If we're sharing the revenue, we're making lots of money. The thing of it is, MLS has been unable to really surpass that minimal guarantee to trigger that revenue sharing part of the deal. Like, as of last October, they did not hit the magic number to trigger the revenue share agreement. And I think that's where a lot of the concern is starting to hit the league executives as well as Commissioner Garber.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Because, you're expecting a certain amount of money back from your investment, and instead you're just getting the baseline. So it'd be like if you had a salesmen, and you know, they weren't getting any commission. They were just taking the base sale, you know, the base salary. You know, what are they really offering you? You know, other than the minimum.
Yeah, and you know, right now it's funny because we talk about the Premier League, the Champions League, everything, every other soccer league, and you know, organization around the world. But right now, the only soccer rights Apple TV owns is MLS. Now, you had mentioned about their wanting to be kind of that bigger picture because the catalog is not that large for Apple TV when in comparison to Fubo or Paramount Plus or YouTube TV. It's funny. That's the
Or
one I really have, and I'm drawing a blank
even
to
a
it.
lot of the free ones, you know, that have really deep catalogs of old stuff. They tend to just stick with things that they've
Yeah.
produced themselves.
And you know what's funny? Garber's been commissioner since 1999. Do you feel that with all the revolutionary things in Major League Soccer, all the expansion, you know, the rise in its popularity, and you know, say what you want about the fan base size, it is still very popular in America. And I think a lot of that's because from the worldwide, from the international fame coming more to the US. But do you think he'll be remembered most for this Apple deal?
No, I don't think so. Um, if I had to guess, it probably, I don't want to sound harsh, but it's probably for him trying to be the leader of all U.S. soccer. Um, he he's come under fire quite a bit in the last couple of years with the U.S. Soccer Cup, and you know, making it so, you
Yeah.
know, something that has been historic and gives the opportunity for the lowest club in America to still play with the biggest clubs, and then pulling the MLS out of it. I know that was a big thing last year. There was a lot of we call it a strike with protests towards those actions. He's also, you know, the champion of, and I wrote a couple articles for Give Me Sport out of London, probably 6 or 7 years ago, and talking specifically about the MLS and how they have to change with the times and how they have to spend money. And the salary cap thing is it doesn't exist really in Europe except for the, you know, financial FIFA fair play rules, which Man City's going through right now. Because yeah, they way overspent. But you know, the one DP, and then, you know, well, Inter Miami, they need another guy. So then now it's two DPs. Oh, well, they need this guy too. So now it's three. So he just kind of changes the rules, you know, willy nilly, as you say. But you know, it's I think he'll probably be remembered more for criticisms in those departments where there's a lot of glaring opportunities to grow the sport, and that includes bringing players from overseas and splashing the cash. And but I am glad to hear about the possibility of them switching over to the European system, because the whole way you get players from overseas is through the transfer portal, transfer market, and it's only certain months out of the year. And if our transfer times don't match up with theirs and doesn't match up with the World Cup schedule, because we play while those schedules are going on, if we match up with their schedules, then that makes us a little more desirable to go to.
So I wanted to, here's this. You're a big European soccer fan, big fan of the international, where honestly, like it is like religion there. I like to think soccer is to, you know, Madrid, Liverpool, Barcelona as football is to Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to ask you, you know, do you think you might know, or do you know what an international soccer fan's reaction to the Major League Soccer style in the United States is? Like when you're somebody overseas and you're looking at what MLS is, do you get what do they think?
I don't think they think about it. It's It would be like if you think about a double A team or a single A team in baseball. It's that far removed.
Oh, that actually kind of hurts to think about that. So I think in a way that's actually kind of worse because being thought about is one thing. Not being thought about is essentially a sign of disrespect. It means like we don't acknowledge you to a level of where, eh,
Yeah, I don't want to be that harsh, but I have friends who are international, and we talk about soccer. That's one of the main things. That universal language to communicate, and that's pretty much what I get. And when I watch, obviously we get American broadcasts over here. So when you're watching the Premier League, they'll hype up the MLS, and you get some of these outlets talking about it. They'll talk about the MLS. Usually, obviously, it's revered as a lower tier because of where they think their standard of football is soccer, but it's considered more of a retirement league. So if we get like David Beckham, he came here to retire. Robbie Keane came here to retire. Wright Phillips. We were trying to get Marco Royce. Again, he was going to go to a lower league, and he chose to come to this lower league. So the competition's not quite there yet, and I think it's just because we don't open our doors to letting the best competition in that probably could be in our league, and that has to do with the DP system and market general allocation money and all that other stuff.
what made you become a fan of international soccer, of the Premier League and the Champions League?
I always loved soccer as a kid. I think probably my first introduction to soccer was FIFA '98, the World Cup version. I don't know if you ever played it, but Blur Song 2 was on that, and it's one of those ones people talk about all the time as being one great games. That was just kind of, I saw that, I played that game and I loved it, and I played soccer on my youth leagues going through as a kid, and I think what really got me on the Premier League though was, again, kind of a paywall thing. There's Fox Soccer Plus on television, and you'd have to pay $50 or something a year, or I don't know, I couldn't give you the exact number, and there you go. And
there it is.
You have to pay a certain amount, and my parents weren't going to pay for that, but every so often they would have like a 2-week thing where they would just run their programming. I don't think it was all their best stuff, but you could watch it, and then I was like, oh my god, that's Manchester United, that's Chelsea, that's what soccer's supposed to look like. And because as a kid growing up, a lot of my coaches had never, being parents and dads and people who had never actually seen quote unquote real soccer. It was whatever our American version we had, and I was like, this isn't the same game. And that was kind of a game changer for me as a player, being able to watch that, and then seeing the stars, and I think that was the transition for me to overseas.
It's like I said, I told you this before the show. I have a cousin who's in Spain right now on I think a year or two scholarship. And I wish I knew off the top of my head. I would have to ask and find out again what team he's associated with. But, soccer was in a weird way. So obviously I knew soccer. He's 16, 17. So I'm almost 30. I've known about soccer well before he was even alive. But I think him being connected to soccer so much kind of got me connected to it more. Because I'm like, okay, I see him talking about, a lot of the international teams like Liverpool, Real Madrid, Barcelona, and of course, we just hear about, some of the greats of all time, I believe for FIFA 100, you look at some of the gentlemen that were on there, like Gabriel Baptista, or sometimes I have problems with Batistue. Of course, Junior, Pele, Romero, Ronaldo, like the list goes on. And it's just, I love it because for a lot of countries, this is their life. Like there's such a deep history. And soccer crowds or football, some of the best crowds, some of the best reactions to like iconic moments. So, and as somebody like it's connecting to a lot of people how the NFL and college football connect with me, or how baseball connects with me. So I always admire that. And also, I'm not gonna lie, the amount of durability and stamina you need in a soccer match is insane. Like it may not look like much, like from a TV perspective, but folks, holy hell, you really need to be built. Like, takes a lot.
I don't know if you've ever seen the Kevin Smith movie Dogma, but it's Ben Affleck.
I have
goes
not.
on.
How is it?
I don't know. It's got mixed reviews. I thought it was pretty funny. Great cast, but it's based around like Jay and Silent Bob, obviously. But Ben Affleck goes through a long spiel, and he says it's the most exhausting thing in the world, except for a game of soccer. So it's just one of those things that the amount of cardio is ridiculous.
Michael, before we start to wrap up, first I want to say it's been an absolute honor and pleasure having you on this evening. This has been such a blast. But I want to ask you, what has been, in your career, you've captured a lot of sports moments, whether via video recording, or just camera operating. To you, what would you consider the most iconic?
Most iconic thing I've done?
Yeah.
Or just the most in general?
Like the one you've covered. Like,
I guess I am forever kind of linked with Adam Wainwright. So it took me a while to work up to getting reps on camera, and it came that season that he retired, and it was the last series. And because a lot of guys have college football packages they have to do, there was a space open to do the tight follow in center field. So you're getting those slow-mo shots going on the pitcher's release, the real tight on the ball going on the catcher's glove. And while they were doing that, so I'm out in the middle of center field, and there was Adam Wainwright came up to bat. They wanted to make sure he got his last at bats. And so he does his little, puts his helmet in the air and does his twirl. And I don't know if it's the greatest camera work, because every time I see it, I go, oh, that's so bad. But they show it every time they talk about his retirement, and it's him, circling in front of the dugout, doing the circle, doing his bow to the fans. And so I guess that would be the most memorable or the most seen thing that anybody in St. Louis has seen in my work. And that was probably the first things I did.
I love to see it. Well, Michael, I know that I'd love to have you on again sometime. I know first off, you have taught me a lot of interesting things tonight. And, it's always a pleasure having people on screen, whether they be athletes or having the folks that do so much hard work behind the scenes. Everything comes together to put the ultimate broadcast for the fans. And at the end of the day, that is what matters most. So to that, with everything, I want to say, on behalf of me being a longtime sports fan and a guy who's been in this field for a decade now, I want to thank you. And once again, thank you for being on the show this evening with me. And I look forward to when we can do this again.
Yeah,
I know you got a very busy schedule, but you're very passionate and you're very hardworking. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm happy to be on and happy to do it again. And Again, it's not me. I'm part of a team, and I'm just a small cog in it. And the guys in our industry that are in St. Louis are amazing, and I learned everything I did from them. And I do want to make one shout out in remembrance of Wade Hewitt, one of our longtime camera guys, passed away last week, and just prayers out to his family, and I just appreciate being on, and had a good time. Thank you.
Of course. Folks, we're going to start wrapping it up this week here on Roundabout Sports. As always, first, you can find Roundabout Sports on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Pocket Casts, and anywhere else you listen to podcasts. You can follow Interstate 70 Sports Media on Facebook, X, and on our official YouTube channel. And you can also go check out Roundabout Sports, the Blues Fan Forum podcast, the Other Guy Sports podcast, and Issues with Wrestling as part of our ever-growing network. Now, we always close the show by putting up the NAMI helpline, and that is 1-800-950-NAMI. It's 1-800-950-NAMI. The National Alliance of Mental Illness is the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization dedicated to building better lives for those who struggle with mental health issues, as well as helping their families. And of course, we end it by putting up on the screen for everybody. And we'll also put up and let you know we end the show every week with the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. And for that, you dial 988. The line is open 24/7, 365, 366 on leap years. Understand you're never alone in this world. There is always somebody out there who loves you, who cares about you. The struggles you go through every day are valid. Your feelings are valid. Your emotions are valid. But they don't have to be faced and traveled alone. You are just a phone call, a text message, an appointment away from that potential life-saving realization. And you could also be the listening ears and watchful eyes for somebody in need as well. So once again, I want to thank my dear friend Michael Arthur for joining me this evening. Be sure to catch us next week for episode 125 of Roundabout Sports. And until then, I'm Maestro Jeremy Karp. And remember, life is a book full of empty pages just waiting to be written in. Make your lives worth reading. Good night, everybody.